We'll start from where we have left. So repeat-wise operator were left yesterday. It was not much used, so I won't repeat that. But yeah. So bitwise operators work on bits of an integer. Or if we give a conditional true false, then it will act like a true false here and say 0 is a true, 1 is a false, then it act like this. So we'll see for integer how it works. We can execute this. So it gives 0 for this operation. Caret. Why it is giving 0? So it work on bits. So binary number. So binary number of 2 is 1 and 0. Okay, 1 and 0. So we are doing caret for this. That's all. So for 0 0, for 0 0, it gives 0. It produces.
Yogesh, can you speak loudly? Because
Yeah.
it's yeah.
For 0 0, it gives 0. And for 1 1, it also gives 0. It will produce 0 0. That's why it is giving 0. So we will try AND operator here. 2 and 2. And we'll see what it produces. I will comment this code. So it is giving 2. For AND operator, for 0 0, it gives 0, 0 1, it gives 0, 1 0, it gives 0. For 1 1, it gives 1. It gives 1. So 1 and this is 0. For 1 0, it is 2. In a binary, 1 0. In a decimal, it is 2. So it is producing 2. Right? Are you getting it? Hello? Someone please?
Yes.
Yeah. So it is producing 2 as an integer or in a decimal. But this is in a binary. Binary 1 0. So in a decimal, it is 2. Similar way for OR, whenever we get 0 0, it gives 0. For other, it gives 1. If you add OR here, for 0 0, it gives 0. For 1 1, it will give 1. Right? I will execute this. Again, it is giving 2. So likewise, this is bit operator when we use with integer. So when we used with a conditional statement, it produces true or false. This is the conditional statements. We have seen OR and AND here, and caret is there for here. So it treated like it. So it is 10 is greater than 5. If it is true for caret, then it is false. So if we consider this step 0 1, it produces 1. Means it is producing 2. Like this. So this is it. Anything? Any questions for this?
Yogesh, can you open that slide again? Guys, just remember that if you are using the first operator, that cap1, so if you are putting same value, means 0 0 or 1 1, same value, right? So it will just result into the 0. Otherwise, it will result into the 1. In this way, you have to remember. And for the AND operator, if you are passing 1 1, then it will be 1, and otherwise it will be 0 for all. Same for OR actually. If you are passing 0, 0, it will be 0. For other, it will be 1. Just remember in this way. Don't by heart the chart. Okay, Yogesh, you can go ahead.
So next is Java keywords. So Java has some reserved keywords which we cannot use as a variable name. So these are the keywords which we cannot use as a variable name. They have their own meaning when they were used in a programming language. So we have seen Boolean, character, if you know, is for, float, finally. So these have their own meanings. We will see one by one. Means whenever they introduce, we will see what is the use of them.
Yogesh,
Yes.
can you please speak a little bit louder?
Okay. Hello. Am I audible? Right? So these are the keywords.
Yeah, now it's clear, Yogesh. Speak in this
these
way.
are the keywords we used in a Java. So Java has their own keyword set. They have their own meanings. They have their definitions. Why they use, why we are using. So we cannot use them as a variable. Just that. This is the rule. So whenever we see these things, maroon color things or violet color things, so these are the keywords. We cannot use them as it is as a variable. It's a simple rule. So in Boolean, these two, while these are the keywords. So this abstract is a keyword when we want to create any abstract variable or method or class. So break is used to break the loop or break the current statement.
Yogesh, you can just keep this. We will just show this keyword uses in the upcoming section. Actually, in practical only.
Okay.
Yes.
So then these are the conditional and decision making statements. So if else, switch and break. So these are the conditional statements. Whenever we want to choose the condition true or false and do accordingly, we use these statements. We go with the examples. So here is a simple example for if statement. So we are checking that A is greater than B or not. So A is 10, B is 20. So A is not greater than. So this statement will not get printed. I will comment this. So nothing is printed. I will change the condition. A is less than B. And it is printing the underneath statement. So it is a simple if. When we have only one condition to check, this is simple if. This is if else statement. When we have two conditions, one is true, and then again if this condition fails, we want to have some other code of block should be executed. Then we use if and else statements. Here I'm purposely falsing this first statement, first condition, so that it will go into the else and this else block. It is printing the else block. So we are purposely falsing this first condition. So if I make it true, it will act like a if the statement we have seen above, if statement, yes, printing will not be printed if statement.
So actually use of this if else condition, suppose we are fetching some data from the UI and we are not sure what we are getting from the UI. So based on that UI input, we simply put some condition there and we just work and perform some action on that block of code actually. That's why this if else condition is needed in the automation. This is a real time use.
If else, when we have two conditions. So if you have more than two conditions, when we want to choose from multiple conditions, then we can use this block if else, and then if. We can also, yeah. So I will make it this if else true. So this will print this block. System out will not be printed this. Will make it unique for us. So this will print this. Else if block. If I make this also false, this should print this else block.
In this what happen, it will because Yogesh, just sorry to interrupt. I will explain this again. So what the compiler will, that execution will do, it will just check the condition at the line number 23. If you are thinking it's a false, then it will go for the next else. If again it's filling into the false part, actually, then it will just go for the last one, actually else part, the default one. Every time it will check the condition at every step. If it is not satisfying, then it will go for next. That's the main character for this nested if else. Yeah, Yogesh, you can go ahead.
In the same block, if you have another condition, some kind of condition, you can add simply if else, make it true for now, then add some code block. Likewise, we can expand this. But if you have some kind of different condition for each if else, then we have to use this. But if you are having one condition on one number on anything, we can replace this if else block, if else block to switch statement. Right. What is switch block? So it has, we can add cases to it, multiple cases to it, just like if else block, and we can have code blocks here or methods here, which will be executed when this condition satisfied. You see the switch block now. We'll comment this now. Just like if else block. So here, so we are taking one integer as 20. We are passing it to switch whatever the number is, and it checks whether the number is 10, 20, or 30. Accordingly, it will go for the statement, will print and break. So, and this is the default state. What we have here else. If nothing is true, then else will be executed. Likewise, nothing is validated. Hello.
Yogesh, can you speak loudly again?
So if nothing is true in this case, then default condition will be executed. So we have default. We have to have default condition in a switch always. I will execute this. So first, number is 20. So we are printing here 20. I change this number to 10.
Hi Yogesh.
Hi.
Yogesh, I think it looks like some issue with your audio today. Sometimes it's getting clear, sometimes it's not clear at all. Is it for me only, or everybody is facing this issue?
Yeah, we are also facing the same. Sometimes like it is clear, but sometimes it is not clear at all.
Okay, sorry for that. Is it clear now? But
Yeah, little bit. Yeah.
okay, just a moment. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are changing this number to 10, and we'll see this should print this case 10 and this 10. So it is a conditional statement switch. So we have to use the break here. What is the significance of a break is once this condition is satisfied, it will go for this statement or code block. Then it has to break some. If we don't use this break here, what will happen? It will go for a second case also, and it will execute the code from the second case also. I have removed the break from the first case 10. You see, both values will be printed because we haven't used the break here. We have to use a break in every switch statement after every case, so that only the code underneath the satisfying condition will be executed. Then after it will break the switch. So we have to use break after every case. So anyone has any doubt for switch?
Yeah, guys, one more important point. We have used if else earlier. So in if else, what happen? It will check every condition at every time. Okay. So in switch case, what is the difference? So if you put the number as a 10, it will just check that 10 case 10 only. It will jump to the direct to that particular case. It will not look for the other cases. So it is a benefit. Suppose if you have many condition, it is better to use switch because it directly jump to the particular condition. And in if else, that's not as efficient when we are having multiple conditions because it will check every condition and it will take time. So execution time will increase there. That's the main difference between this if else and the switch statement. So any questions, guys?
Okay.
I'm expecting at least questions, or if you are not question, then I'm assuming it's everything is clear for you for this conditional statements. Or you're not clear, just mention in the chat window. That's fine.
We'll move further. Okay.
Okay, Yogesh, proceed for the next.
Yeah. So next is typecasting and wrapper class. We'll see the typecasting. When we promoting a variable or a data type to another data type, we call it as a typecasting. Promoting means we are somewhere means we are converting the byte to short or byte to int, or we are converting double to long. So these are the typecasting. So promotion means we are promoting int to long, and we can say demoting means a double value is converted into long, which is demoting, or we narrowing, we say. So we'll see the widening or promoting here. So what we are doing here, we are doing int value into the long, and then long value into the float. We are printing these values. So it gives, this is the integer value, this is the long value, this is the integer value converted into long, and this is the long value converted into float. So when we are promoting means a smaller byte of number to a bigger byte of number, bigger byte of data type, we need not to use anything here. So we simply assign this to long. We are simply assigning this to float. We need not to do anything when we are promoting. But when we are demoting the data type, we have to explicitly write down what we are doing. Explicitly, we have to write down. Also, narrowing. Here, so we are converting double value into the long value. Long is a whole value, so it was double. It has a decimal, 66. But while converting to the long, it removed the decimal values, it only have 166, and long value into the integer, it is similar. So whenever we want to do narrowing or demoting of any data type, we have to explicitly use this explicitly use this bracket and into the data type, similar data type. So we'll try for character here. Cat. We'll convert this into the cat. And we will we should convert this 166 into the character. So this is the character. Character which has an ASCII value 166. So if we want to try that it is a actual character, we can have I value to 65. I guess 65 is a value of a character. 65 is ASCII value of a character. That I know. It is printing the character. It is converting this into value into the character. Any doubt, guys? So simple thing is when we want to widening, when we putting some smaller byte of number into the number or data type into the bigger, we need not to do anything. We have to just assign it to the that bigger by data type. But we want to narrow it, or we want to insert that into the smaller byte of data type, then we have to explicitly use this bracket and that same data type, so that the compiler will know that we want to convert this data type into this data type.
Okay, sorry to interrupt, Yogesh. Just wait.
Uh,
So widening typecasting will not result into any data loss actually. Suppose we are providing 1, so it will be 1 at till double. Okay. So but whenever we are just narrowing something, suppose we are providing value at line number 28, 166.66. So when we are converting into the int, it will just result into 166. That means there is a data loss actually. So we have to make sure that if you are narrowing some typecasting, so it will result into database calculation, and if you are doing some calculation, it might go wrong. So you have to think about this as well. Okay. So now Yogesh, instead of that 166.66, just put that 16.7. 16.7. There is one question from the Diksha.
Okay.
Just execute the program, and we have to check the value of the I. Just comment out that line number 34. And we have to check the value of I, Yogesh. That line number 32.
Yeah, it is printing here.
Yeah, Diksha. So it will be not 17, it will be 16 only. It will just remove the .7. It is not rounding up. Yeah, thanks, Diksha.
Yes.
One question from the Shubham, Yogesh. So there is one value 21474836848. Could you please take this as a D value?
Okay.
Double. No, actually, yeah. Just yeah, you can type that value, Yogesh, in the chat window. 2147. You are not able to see the chat window, Yogesh?
Yeah.
Just copy that question, that value from the Shubham's chat. Yeah, put D at the last. Small d. Yes. And now try to execute. Now see, Shubham.
So we are losing some data here.
Yes, at the last actually, at the
For
last.
integer also we are losing some.
Yes,
And for character, definitely.
it will just provide the, suppose there is a limitation of the int, but there is a limit actually for the integer. So if it is going beyond that limit, so it will just reduce the particular maximum limit only. It will lost everything apart from that limit, maximum limit.
Yes.
Okay, so Shubham, clear?
So should we go further?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
So next is a wrapper class.
Yeah, one question, Yogesh, one question from the Diksha. Can you please show the decimal example in widening also?
How we can have decimal example? So float will have a decimal value, and float can be.
Yes. Just simply execute this program. First widening one. I will just explain. Comment out below. Actually, here we won't lose anything, Diksha. So we will get only 7.0 as a value of float.
So we will show this.
Yeah, that's fine. Actually, we got the output, Yogesh. That's fine. 7.7.0.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine, Yogesh. We can go ahead. Thanks, Diksha.
So next is wrapper class. So what are the wrapper class? Wrapper class are the classes for each primitive data type, so that we can convert these primitive data types into the object of the wrapper class. So for each primitive data type, we are having a wrapper class, a simple Java class for them. So what class we have seen, that class has their own methods also, so that we can have some implementation of that. So we can use those methods also. So the primitive data type can be converted into the object of this class. So in AutoBoxing, what is the AutoBoxing? When the conversion of primitive data type into the corresponding wrapper classes, it's called AutoBoxing. And vice versa will be called unboxing. Means whenever we convert the object of a wrapper class into the primitive data type, it is called unboxing. We will see the example here. Comment is below code unboxing. So this is a AutoBoxing. We are doing here AutoBoxing. We are having these primitive data types: byte, short, int, long, float, boolean, and we are converting these into their respective wrapper classes. So and we are printing the values. Values as it is. We have converted into the object. So what is the benefit of converting it to the object? So if this is a byte object, so we are having these multiple methods for these objects, which we can use. So it can convert to double value, float value, hash codes, int values, long values. So it has these methods which we can use whenever we want to use. But for primitive data types, we don't have any kind of such methods. If I show you p dot, it doesn't populate any methods. So this is the benefit when we say that we are doing AutoBoxing or anything. It is AutoBoxing when we convert the primitive data type into the object. Any doubt in this?
Yeah, Diksha, I have one doubt. What is actually the wrapper class? Actually, wrapper class is just a way to convert the primitive data types, means that Boolean char, into the object actually.
So these are the Java classes designed to convert the primitive data type into the object. Just that. So it is actually wrapping this data type, and they are having their own methods in the classes.
It's not clear for the Diksha. So I'll explain. So can you open that slide, Yogesh? Diksha, see, on the first column, it's a primitive data type actually, boolean, char, byte, short, int, long. Okay. And for respective, there is wrapper classes actually. In wrapper classes, there are multiple methods actually that we can use for the compare with the other boolean data or something. There are some extra functionality. Yogesh, can you just go and show the methods actually in the Eclipse? Just copy that and just paste it down and just use any method.
Okay.
Copy that. No, only the object, byte code, byte object. We can perform different action based on this object. Yeah, you can see compare to, we can just pass another byte value and we can just compare and we will get the boolean result there. Simple equal, we are getting the equal method. We can just simply compare that, check if it is equally matched. Then again, if you want to get the integer value of that byte, so we can get that as well here by using the int value method. Like that, there are multiple methods that can be used. Okay, so simply just consider that if you want to use the primitive data type with extra functionality, so we can just use these wrapper classes. Diksha.
Yes. Yes, okay. So actually, my actual doubt is, can we compare the only same type with the same primitive type, or we can compare with other also?
It's a we can type with actually we can compare same type actually, not a different here.
Yes.
See, you have written here byte object. So byte objects is an variable, correct? Of byte type, which is comparing with B type declared variable.
Which
For
variable?
equal, we can have
Yeah.
objects, but it should be a byte. So
Like,
you can
can you please go above? See, you have first declared. Here you have declared the byte B value as 10.
Yes.
After that, you are autoboxing it to byte, and for which you have declared the variable byte object, and you are
Right.
storing the B value in byte object.
Right.
So it means that the byte B10 value you are converting to the byte object.
Right.
Is it correct?
Right.
So while printing the byte object, then output is 10.
Right.
Like how it's doing the autoboxing type? Can you show, like, it's giving the same value output? 10 is giving
It is
the 10.
it is not related to changing anything, any
Okay.
value change. It is
Okay.
just that we are converting into the object. Sometimes what we need, we came across some situation where we want to have an object instead of a primitive data. So Java has provided this wrapper class to convert the respective data type into the respective their corresponding objects.
Yeah.
Yes. So we came across some kind of situations somewhere when we want to use multi-threading or synchronization or in some kind of collection framework. So we have to convert sometimes primitive data type into the object. Then only we use this.
Oh, means it's nothing related to the value output.
No,
It's
nothing
just
related.
converting to the object type.
Right.
Yes.
It
Yes.
is
Perfect.
converting this data type, this primitive data type, into the object only. So when we use
Okay.
collection, when we use a collection, the while using the collection, most of the time it accept objects, not the primitive data type, and it will convert this like that. It also takes the primitive data type also, but it's just the converting the primitive data type into the object only, nothing else. No change in a value or nothing.
Okay,
Does
okay,
that
got it.
you
Yeah.
you have access to this method also, and whenever we want to have an object, then we are ready. Yes.
Okay, so one more doubt, Yogesh. Thank you, I understood that. But when we are converting it to the object, where like the B value is converted to the particular object type, like
But
byte, then what is the meaning to use the method with that particular object? Like is it performing as an regular object type? Like we can use access any method with the particular object?
right, it
Yes.
is
Yes.
just like a object of a class. So it has method. I have shown this. These are the methods.
Actually,
can-
at line number
we can-
16, 17, it's actually a class actually, byte. That whenever, whichever the word starting with the camel gets, it's a class actually. And we have created the object of that byte object, short
That's
object.
why it is showing these methods
Yep.
for this object. But for this B, we will not see any kind of method because it is a primitive data type.
Okay, I got it. Yeah, thank
It's
you.
just to convert into the object, and we will be available with these methods. It's just that. And use of a wrapper class is just that we are able to convert the primitive data type into the object or object into the primitive data type. So moving further, unboxing. Unboxing is a reversing the thing. So we have object of some kind of corresponding primitive data type, and we are converting it into the primitive data type. So we are having byte object. We are converting into the byte. It is called unboxing. So reverse situation here. For this byte value, we won't be having any kind of methods because it is a primitive data type.
Actually, in a single line of code, we can just auto box and inbox that. So you have to remember this step.
Or we cannot find this because we are using this below. I will execute it. And say the unboxing. Yes. Printing. From here, we are having primitive data type. In it up. Any doubt, guys? With the single line, we can auto box or unbox. Okay, going further. Loops. So we are we have while loop, do while, for loop, and for each loop. We'll see one by one in the example. That will be more clear. So sometimes we want to execute some kind of code for multiple iteration or for multiple times until the condition is suffice. Just a moment. Sorry for. Sorry for that. So when we want to execute some kind of a code for multiple times until the condition is satisfied, we use loops for those times. So here we are having while loop. While loop has one bracket where we can put our condition. Until this condition is satisfied, it will execute this underneath code. So I will comment this below code. Now I will execute this. So the condition is I is less than 5. I should be the less than 5. So first of all, I is 0, which satisfies the condition. Then it will go into the loop. It will print I value. It will increment I until I become 5. When I become 5, 5 is not less than 5. Then it will break. It will stop executing. So here we get 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 printed. 4 until the 4 printed. But when I becomes 5, it will not execute the code underneath the while. So it will break. So this is while loop. Similarly, we have do while. do while is somehow similar to this, but in a do while only one first time execution of the code will be done without checking any condition, So here if you take this I again I will convert this I will comment this value so that it won't change our I value. So I is 0 and it will also execute the same way. It will print the same result. So what is the difference? If I take I is equal to 6, which does not satisfy this condition, right? But still it will execute once. So this is the benefit of do while. I will show you. Yeah, it is printing 6 without checking this while condition. This is the benefit over a while of a do while. Okay, that it execute the code at least for once without checking the condition. Any doubt in between while and do while? Okay, I will comment this. So next is for loop. For loop is a simpler version of a while loop. You can say that we have declaration in a for loop itself. We have condition and we have incrementation or decrementation, whichever we want to use. So all these three statements in a single bracket. This is a advantage over a while loop. So here we are having j is equal to 0. Condition is j is less than 3 and it is plus plus j plus plus. So we are printing the j value. It will print 2, right? So this is a simple for loop, just like while loop, but we are having the defining the variable in it. We are having condition in it, and we have j plus plus incrementation also in the for loop. So here we can modify this also. We can define this here. It means like we are using some predefined integer we can use directly in a condition, and we can also remove this incrementation and we can put it in the for loop just like a while loop. So it will also work. I will show you like this. It is like just that we are having some kind of integer outside our for loop and we want to have some condition on that. So that same integer we can use in the for loop also. Yes. This is the for loop. This is the for each loop where we don't have to have any condition or any implementation or any defining integer here. We simply have to have it only work on array string, not on a primitive data types. It will work on classes or arrays. So here we are using array. So array has a it is an integer array. It has integers. So Java, what it does Java, when we use this for each loop with this colon, it will convert this array it will pop out the each integer one time, and it will stop whenever it reaches till the end. I will execute this. So it will pop out 1 into the element, and we are printing here element 1. So one by one, it will print all the values. We need not to have any condition on it. So if we are using simple for loop for this, if you try simple for loop for this array to print, we have to use these conditions. J is less than array dot length into j plus plus. And then this statement array of j. So I will show you both. It will print the similar result, but we have to use these things instead of this. So it minimize our effort. So we are using for each. This is the only difference between this. Anything related to loops, right? Okay.
So one question from the Ravindra Barpa. So which is loop is preferable for while or for? So if you are using array or any pixel and data type, so you can go for the that for loop. Otherwise, you can go for the while loop.
ते म्हणजे कुठे काय करायचं ते दाखवा. सांग बाथरूम करायचं.
Yeah, any more questions, Shubham? Print 5 to 0 using each loop. Okay. Yogesh, you are on mute. I have muted you because of background noise. So can you just type a program to print 5 to 0 on each loop actually? That for loop actually, I think Shubham is talking about. Use that line number 31 loop actually. You just decrement. Okay. Actually, in the for each loop, Shubham, we should always use for the increment, not for the decrement. So we cannot do by using the for each loop. Okay, Yogesh, the question is clear. Actually, he want to print the decrement of the integer using the for each loop. That is not possible. We can ignore. That's fine. Then one more question for me, Jay. Can you please explain the last code array once again? So can you go for the enhanced for loop again, Yogesh? Actually, I will explain. For the enhanced for loop, we are just not worrying about the increment and size of that array or any specific data type. It will internally check the size of that particular data type or array, and it will just increment within its internal code actually. So we don't have to worry about the increment and the size. We have to just provide the data type actually, data variable actually, suppose array, and it will simply iterate over that particular list or array. It will just print, or we can just perform any action within that for loop. Okay, we can see it as enhanced for loop, Jay Raut. Okay, Jay, it's clear. Okay, yeah, we can go ahead. Yogesh, can you please unmute yourself and go ahead.
So next is array. Array. So array is a collection of similar type of elements. So we can have an array of integer. We can have an array of float. Means for a primitive data type, we can have an array. array of a primitive data, any primitive data type. I will show you the example. So here we are initializing the A as an array of an integer. So to print it, we are using for loop for each row. Will come in this two-dimensional array. For both the for loop, it is printing these values. So this is the array. So we can have array of float also. We can convert this into the float. So here it is giving error because this is not a float. It should be float. So likewise, we can have array for the all the primitive data types. So this is one kind of a declaration definition. So we can also have float or int a equal to u int, and we have to give a size. So this way also we can define our integer int array.
Can you write one line of code, Yogesh, to insert the values in this array?
So we can have, we have to give the position on which position we want to insert the value. We are inserting it.
Yeah, in Java, actually index start with always 0. Just remember this. When we are going to insert, we should start the index from 0, and we for reading also it's the same thing actually, from 0 only, not from 1. Yeah, and the disadvantage of the array is that we can only give the fixed size. Suppose if you are requirement to provide the dynamic values, dynamic number of values, so we cannot give that by using the array. There are different data types actually that we will going to cover in upcoming session. Okay. Here
So this is a single dimensional array. You can have two-dimensional or multi-dimensional array also. You see the two-dimensional array here. So this is a two-dimensional array. So we print this. It will print it 0, 0, this. Nothing, because it doesn't have any values. So we will put some values. Array. We have to give the indices. I will change the indices. It has a size of 3. So I can use 2 here. And I will put some random value. It should print this way 90 on the position of 0, 2. This is a 0th row and the second column in index. Right? Likewise, we can have other value. This is it. So for two-dimensional array, we have to use nested for loops. This one is for row, this one is for column. For 0th row, it will go till the all the columns, then it will stop, and then the next row. We have to use, when we are having two-dimensional arrays, we have to use nested for loops. So any question in array?
So Diksha has one question. It's a 2D, then output value is 3 form. It's confusing. Can you please explain? So actually, we are using the 2 for loops, one for the row, one for the column. So by combining this, we are getting the 3 things actually here. Means 9 output.
So it is two-dimensional, right? Two-dimensional means it has 3 rows and 3 columns, just like an Excel sheet we can say. And for each cell, we are putting some values. Right now, we are putting only two cells, but by default, it is 0 for other. So that's why it is showing in a 3 by 3.
Okay.
column.
Yogesh, if you change that array dimension or the size from 3, 3 to 2, 2, that probably will solve our confusion.
2, 2.
Yes.
But it will give a
Yeah, 1, 1.
exception. 1.
No, size will be 2, 2, but the
Uh-huh.
values that we have entered 0, 2, and 2, 2 on the 2-dimensional arrays that we can change to 1, 1. Probably that might resolve our confusion.
Yeah. Line number 23, Yogesh. Keep
Yes.
it 2, 2. Yes.
Exception for this.
Yes.
This.
Actually, Diksha, you can just simply keep the breakpoint at line number 30 in this case, and you can just see the value of I and j. Based on that, you can just get at what point we are getting which value.
Whenever we considering two-dimensional array, it is just like a Excel sheet. We can see Excel sheet for each cell we can have a value. But how we can identify our Excel sheet? By row and column, right? So we have A, B, C, D at the column values and 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So to insert in a A2, we call it A2, and then we insert some value there, right? Likewise, similarly, in a two-dimensional array, we have to go few 2 indexes so that it will identify where you have to put the value or where it has to fetch the value. Just like that. So here we have see one exception here. I will revert the code. I will show you the exception. So we are getting here array index out of bound. When we work with an array, we might get this exception. When we are trying to reach the maximum, means if you have index of a 2, but we are trying to reach the third index, then we get the index out of bound. So here we are having only 2, means till the 2 means 0 and 1, but we are trying to reach to second indexes j of 2. Then we are getting this exception out of array index out of bound exception when we are trying to reach out of bound of that array. Did you get that? Okay. So moving further.
Yogesh, we can pause here.
So,
Yeah, it's 9:35 now. So guys, any questions here? The topic which we have taught you. Okay, so if you don't have any question, then we can wrap up for today.
okay. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you, everyone.
Yeah, actually, I have pinged my number. If you are getting some confusion in this, you can. I will just start meeting by tomorrow, 15 minutes earlier, actually. So you can get back to me, or you can just ping me on the WhatsApp. Okay, I will just clarify that your doubts. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.